is a Football Friday. Here we go. Plenty to talk about as the Vols are certainly prepared to romp against that team from up north, the Huskies.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Here we go, up and rolling, and it's an exciting time in my life because Caleb Calhoun has to pay up on his bet. Mayonnaise in the coffee, Will Levis style, because he missed on some bet that I can barely remember. But that doesn't matter because he's just going to be drinking mayonnaise in a coffee. So we're looking forward to that later in the program. It is a weird coffee day because, Caleb, I got my teeth whitened, and I'm not allowed to drink coffee. So what do you think?
Oh, how long can you not drink coffee for?
48 hours. So I'm on the pre-workout energy drink.
Brutal.
But first, what do you think of my teeth? But first, what do you think of my teeth?
I think your teeth look amazing, Dave.
Thank you.
Definitely very unsouthern of you. Okay, sorry. Bad joke. But
yes, I'm at the age, too, in which they say there are some things that we just can't do. When you get to that age, used to be like in your 30s, they'd say, yeah, we can whiten those up and they'll look fantastic. Nowadays, when you're pushing 50, something called internal stains that come from within. By the way, you've got a heck of a haircut. We are looking great on this day. I'll go ahead and tell you that right now. And we got a huge show lined up. Take part in the poll question that's on Twitter right now. And that is pretty simple, and I'm pretty excited about it. Can you pull that poll question up? I know you had a little bit of an issue with that yesterday. Do you know where that is now?
Well, that's because you said the poll was on YouTube yesterday. Is it on YouTube or Twitter?
It's on the YouTube.
You just said Twitter, Dave.
Did I just say Twitter?
Yes.
All right. It's on the YouTube. So what do we got? Tell me.
All right,
I'm
so
excited about this.
The poll question is, who racks up the most yards for Tennessee versus UConn? Squirrel White, Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, or somebody else?
Okay, the thing I love about our audience is that this starts off one way, and a lot of the time these poll questions are just static after the first 5 minutes. Everybody just votes the same, but ours have been very flexible. So I want an update of where it is now, and I want your thoughts as well.
That was where it was now. I thought I gave it to you. Jalen Wright leads at 44% at the moment. In terms of the full poll, other is at 33%, Dylan Sampson at 22%, Squirrel White at 0%.
Okay, but that's early. That's early. So there we go. That's not today's tough question. Today's tough question is even better. So lined up on the program today, we have got anonymous coaches and fellow Big Ten schools think Michigan and their cheating scandal is serious. And did that really affect the Vols in their game against South Carolina last year? I was told, and you might want to check on this for me, there was a Shane Beamer tied to a current coach at Michigan. We'll get into all of that. And also, I just want to ask the question, while this is technically cheating, do you want Josh Heupel pushing the limits a little bit? Or because of the NCAA backdrop that he came in when there were multiple violations with Jeremy Pruitt, are you like, hey, be cool, man. Don't be sending hostesses to North Carolina Lane Kiffin style. You shouldn't be doing that. Also, a rooting interest lineup that we have for you, and that's because we're at the time of the year. It is November, so the college football playoff and SEC East is still very much up for grabs. Tennessee needs some help, but can get in it. We're going to tell you who you should root for. Also, November success, and I'm glad you brought this up because Tennessee has had great success over the week, over the years in November, and I want to tell you why I think that's a big part of it. Also, recruiting, it's a big weekend, so we'll get off and running on that. But it's exciting to see that Caleb later in the program will drink a cup of coffee with mayonnaise in it, and even got a haircut to do so. So excited.
You know, the worst part about this is I'm doing this the day after Will Levis let me down. And I don't care what anybody says on the Times. Like, oh my God, Will Levis is our future. No, he's not. Any quarterback can look good. Dave, you said it. You hit the nail on the head. You said 6 quarters. Any quarterback can look good in the NFL for 6 quarters. That was your exact quote. What happened? Will Levis didn't have a touchdown in the second half. The Titans scored 3 points. That was his 7th and 8th quarter. And by the way, everybody's saying he did it well against the Steelers defense. If you're a quarterback who's only started 1 game and then you're playing a team on a short week, that favors you because the defense hasn't had enough time to try to figure you out.
Yep. All right. So a mayonnaise mocha for Caleb Calhoun later in the program. Elias says my bet is either Wright or D. Williams, depending on how we define yards, just total yards from scrimmage. So it could be receiving yards. It could be rushing yards, just total yards from scrimmage. So now we talked about earlier in the week that Tennessee should wear those powder blue jerseys in honor of Pat Summitt. They're not going to do that. They're going to wear the, I don't know, what do you call them? Accent pieces? It doesn't sound right in football, but they're going to wear the accent pieces. And of course, they're trying to sell you that at all the different retailers. But they're going to have the towels and they're going to have, I guess, some socks. And I think that's cool. I would take it a step further. But there we go. So I want to start it with today's tough question. Today's tough question brought to you by Andy Mason. Andy Mason, realestate.com. Best service, best prices in the biz. And it's pretty darn simple. Should Tennessee run up the score on UConn?
A college football tradition like no other. Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right. We know that Josh Heupel ran up the score against Missouri. Let's just be honest. Can we take that from assumption and thought to it is a fact? Can we go ahead and go that far, Caleb? Or will you take that walk into the knowledge wilderness with me? He ran up the score against Missouri because Eli Drinkwitz is a jackwagon.
100% he ran up the score against Missouri. And he did it not just because of Eli Drinkwitz. That wasn't just at Eli Drinkwitz. Josh Heupel wanted the Missouri job because, again, he had been very successful as an offensive coordinator there. He had 2 good years at UCF. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think Josh Heupel thought he had a chance to get a job like the Tennessee job at the time. So I think Josh Heupel thought the Missouri job would be his best opportunity. So he really wanted that job. So yeah, he ran up the score to humiliate Drinkwitz and to humiliate the Missouri administration. That was about them more than anybody.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Because back in the day, you had to run up the score to win the BCS formula because score differential mattered. That's not really the case with the college football playoff anymore, but it kind of sort of is. It always has to factor in. But should Tennessee run up the score on UConn if given the opportunity, or should they be the nice guys and say, hey, you've got a Morris head coach, so there's a glass ceiling on what you can do, and you don't have as much talent, and we're pushing you around and hurting you, so we're going to be nice. We're Tennessee, and we're going to be nice. Should they be nice, or should they run up the score? Because I'm not a big run up the score guy, but I'm going to tell you why they should here in just a moment. Your thoughts on should Tennessee run up the score against UConn? Because clearly the Huskies are outmatched.
Yes, and they should do it for a few reasons. UConn, as everybody knows, is they almost got into the Big 12, and they're trying to position to be in a Power 5 conference in the future. And Tennessee, just for petty sake, should want UConn to be miserable as an athletic program. Now, I want to dive into the Pat Summitt Gino Auriemma rivalry real quick. Pat Summitt, as everybody knows, canceled the series because she didn't like Gino Auriemma. I think it was using ESPN headquarters as a tour for recruits, and that's how he got Maya Moore. Isn't that where it really goes down?
And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm going to interrupt for just a second. I'm very disappointed in you. You shouldn't run up the score. That's not good sportsmanship, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right, Dave. So I want to tell you this. I actually think Pat Summitt, rest in peace, overreacted there. you use your recruiting advantages that you have. You don't think that, I mean, shouldn't the Lady Vols give women's basketball recruits tours of the College Basketball Hall of Fame in Knoxville when they come? Like,
Sure. Yeah, but I think she was a by the book person, and and really when you go to that ESPN complex, I've been there. It is a little daunting. I mean, it kind of makes it's kind of like a Buc-ee's compared to the mom and pop convenience store down the road. Buc-ee's, shout out, maybe a future advertiser here on Off the Hook Sports. So, I mean, the ESPN thing's insanely crazy. So the fact that you could even be near that. Now, it's not like the UConn women's basketball players were regularly going to go over to Bristol and say hi. So that
it hasn't helped their football program out recruit anybody. So it's like, I mean, I think she shouldn't have been as by the book. I understand that she was more old school, but she should have. So I don't blame Gino for that. What I do blame Gino for, and this is where I come in. And I keep going back to 2016 when Gino Auriemma purposely left Candace Parker off the Olympic team when Candace Parker was the best player in the WNBA at the time. And he did it the year Pat Summitt died. He did it he actually made the decision the same month Pat Summitt died. Ouch. To leave Candace Parker off the Olympic team.
Ouch.
All out of vindictiveness that she didn't commit to UConn coming out of high school.
Okay.
That is as low and disgusting as it gets. And I think Tennessee should pour it onto UConn this weekend just over that one thing.
Okay, what about you're a terrible sport. By the way, Andy Mason Real Estate, over 40 years of experience, best prices, best service in the biz, andymasonrealestate.com for all your real estate needs. All right. I'm disappointed, Caleb. I thought you were a man of moral integrity, but now you're just like run up the score against a bunch of scrubs. Now people
ruin the athletic program. By the way, Jim Calhoun was also a sleazeball, but we don't have to go into that. But ruin the athletic program.
No relation?
No relation to me.
By the way, people are saying on the message board, no reason to risk injuries before big games. We definitely don't need injuries. But Travis says that Josh Heupel's going to run it up if he can. Hey, listen, guys, you can run it up with the second string. I'm not saying that you have to keep Joe Milton in there for 4 quarters so he can score a little bit more. I'm not saying that Squirrel White needs to be playing on the final drive of the game. I mean, there are dudes that can run up the score on this team just with the offense that they have. The other factor is, and I think this gets downplayed a little bit, is for the college football playoff. I mean, this is a program unlike Georgia, unlike Alabama, that is defined in a lot of people's eyes, despite what has happened this year with their offense. So if you don't go out there and score 50 plus against UConn and you beat UConn, let's say 34-9, that doesn't look real good based off what Tennessee was last year. So there's an argument to be made that you should do it for the college football playoff. I know it's not as direct as it was when they had the BCS formula, but I think that's a strong argument as well. And then there's the other, just damn do it. Okay. Because here's my thought on this. Tennessee they've had some bumps in the road. The Cooper Mays thing at Florida, we've talked about. Alabama was a gut shot loss. Just go out and feel good about yourself. Go out and hang 70 on UConn. I'm sorry, it's never going to come back to bite you in the rear because there's going to be a mega conference that UConn could not possibly ever be invited to. And they're not going to be a factor. You could argue that Tennessee shouldn't have done it against Missouri last year because Missouri might be good this year. And oops, they are. But UConn, nah. It's a paycheck game for them. They're going to get the cash just to feel good after a season that has had some serious emotional bumps in the road. Just to feel good. Should Tennessee run up the score? What do you say on the message board? That's right. Off the Hooks news slogan is just damn do it. I would wear that shirt, and you might have one coming your way. Smoky Mountain Red. All right, so which of the three? Rank them. Pat Summitt, just damn do it, or to impress the rest of the nation when it comes to the college football playoff. Why would you run up the score? Because you have such poor moral gravitas that you're going to run up the score on this poor UConn team. What's the reason? Is it Pat Summitt? Is it college football playoff? Is it just damn do it?
So you have actually swayed me. I was saying Pat Summitt at the start. It's college football playoff number one, because we're going to get into pretty soon here how like Tennessee's rooting interest and how they can try to get in. Dave, I would have agreed with you that it was more direct with the BCS, but if Tennessee is going to get in somehow, it's more direct with Tennessee, because if you're a 2-loss team, then you do need margin of victory, because you're not going to have like a clear cut. If you get in, you won't be clear cut getting in over other teams. You know what I mean? You would have to make your case to the college football playoff committee. You would agree with me on that, right? As a
I
2-loss
agree.
team?
And I'll say the other thing too, while it's not supposed to, margin of victory is not supposed to be a big thing, and it shouldn't, because it was embarrassing at times. I remember Philip Fulmer saying, oh, we had to go out and beat the hell out of Louisiana Monroe because, we needed the points. And it was actually a factor, for those that don't remember, in the formula. Point differential was. So you don't want to make that a habit. But you can't tell me that if Tennessee doesn't hang a 70 spot on UConn, that
80.
some of the, I don't know about 80, but that some of those people aren't going to say, whoa, Tennessee's found its offense again. I think it has a residual subconscious effect. I really do.
Oh, that's exactly, I think, why they need to do it. The other point with this, for everybody worried about the starters, I'm so glad you brought up the leaving, you can run it up with the backups, because I want to bring up a history lesson to people right here. And Dave, you might remember this game. You were young at the time, but I'm sure you know about it. 1985, Miami.
Wait a second. Let me say this real quick. Screw it. Let's go for 100, Elias says. That's what I'm talking about.
Try to break the all-time record blowout is Georgia Tech Cumberland. Georgia Tech won 222-0, 1916, I think. Okay, so my history lesson real quick is 1985 Miami Notre Dame. Jerry Faust, Notre Dame, is coaching his last game. You remember Jerry Faust, right, Dave? He was a high school coach who then got Notre Dame, took a shot on, and Notre Dame played, we're classy, we're Notre Dame, and everybody should respect us, and everybody should respect Jerry Faust. And Jimmy Johnson, last game of the year for Miami, and it's Jerry Faust's last game ever as a coach, and Jimmy Johnson just pours it on. He pulls the starters, but he also, after pulling the starters, does a fake punt on 4th and 11 when he's up by 40.
That's nasty. Now, that's probably a little far. But I do believe, and Steve Spurrier said you run your offense with the backups in. Said that's how he would not run up the score. He would pull his starters, but he certainly would continue to run the offense. And that's what you should do. Let's say Nico's in there. Should he be just handing the ball off and handing the ball off? No, that should be a glorified scrimmage for him or whoever backup is in the game. And Tennessee is so much better than UConn and the first and second level of the depth chart that they can do that without risking any injury. So I think you do it for Pat Summitt. I think you do it for the college football playoff, but just damn do it.
Dave, you covered.
Just damn do it. Because if Josh Heupel doesn't make some bad decisions on 4th down at Alabama, and I'm not going to debate that with you, if Cooper Mays isn't hurt, this team's undefeated. So I feel for, maybe it's because I talk to Cooper and Jacob every week, but I feel for how close they are and were, despite the fact that they had a new quarterback that they had to continue to break in. So yeah, just damn do it.
Dave, I will say you covered one exception to this. You covered Lane Kiffin's opening game with Tennessee when they beat Western Kentucky 63-7. He left his starters in the fourth quarter and was trying to run up the score. Remember that? He left Crofton in the whole time.
But you know what's going to happen if somebody gets hurt?
I know.
Do that. Yeah, we would be having that discussion. And
what was going through Kiffin's mind, though, that game? Was he just trying to make a statement his first game as Tennessee's head coach?
What was going through Kiffin's mind? My goodness, can you tee that up anymore? I have at least 6 things that ran through my head that I could say right now. Should I choose one or should I just move on?
Choose one. I want to hear the fun now. I want the fun.
Okay, what lady he was going to hang out with that night. All right, here we go. Tennessee football recruiting interest this weekend. Here's what you've got to do and you got to root for. Now, are these things possible? I'm going to tell you, and you tell me too on the message board what you think as far as the rooting interest, because the Vols need some help to get in the college football playoff or win the SEC East. Both of those are long shots. So two different levels. And one is,
that's crazy.
In other words, it's probably not going to happen. And then
You suck, you jackass.
so that's to Caleb for even suggesting that this is a possibility. So rooting interest this weekend is brought to you by our very good friends. And I remind you to support our sponsors. We greatly appreciate that. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Enjoy life better when you see better. Local vision service for LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examinations. Go to ccteyes.com. ccteyes.com. Local doctors that care about you. And I'll tell you this, I got my eyes fixed, no contacts, no glasses, faster than I got my teeth whitened. Think about that. That doesn't sound right, does it, Caleb?
It does not sound right at all.
Well, we'll talk about that whole ordeal. All right, so Tennessee football rooting interest this weekend. You rattle them off, and I'm going to tell you if there's a real opportunity.
That's crazy.
Or that now I guess we could. There's a couple that could happen.
Hey now.
So we'll throw some hey nows in there. All right, give me one of them, and I'm going to tell you how possible they are.
Do you want me to go from least important to most or most important?
You do it how you want to do it.
All right,
I
I'm going to start with
believe in
most
you.
important because I don't know how far down we want to go. So the most important game that Tennessee fans should be watching this weekend is Missouri at Georgia. And they need to root like heck for Missouri. It's more of an outside. Oh, you think that's possible?
Not really, but
That's crazy.
it is possible.
Okay, so yeah, if Missouri wins, Tennessee controls its destiny to win the East. Almost. But they need one more thing to happen, Dave. They need Florida to lose one more time. And so
I'm not even worried about that.
Just to be sure, the second most important game for Tennessee's rooting interest this weekend is Arkansas, Florida. They really need to root for Arkansas over Florida this weekend. Just get it out of the way. If you do that, you've already controlled your own destiny. If Missouri and Arkansas both win, Tennessee controls its own destiny in the East.
Okay. Which of those are most likely to happen in your opinion, and on the message board as well? Who do you feel best about in that regard? Rank those three games, 1, 2, 3, bam.
No, that was just two. It was just two.
Rank those two games, 1, 2, bam.
Well, okay, Arkansas is more likely to upset Florida than Missouri is Georgia, but you'd rather Missouri upset Georgia because Florida's going to lose to LSU the next week anyway. So,
yeah.
But let's be honest, Dave. Missouri or Arkansas, who would you put money on this weekend if you had to put on one?
Golly, Missouri.
You put the money on Arkansas.
I mean, not considering opponent. Like, I don't think that Missouri's going to beat Georgia, but I think from what I've heard talking to some people this week that Arkansas is just in a tailspin. So, I mean, but if I were to place,
quit the season.
Yeah, if I were to place money on one team to play well, it would be Missouri. But if I were to place money on one team to beat Missouri, to beat Georgia, or Arkansas to beat Florida, I would keep my wallet in my pocket.
I would still go with Arkansas to beat Florida because I think Florida may be giving up on the season too. All right, so now that's just for the East. Those are the only two games you need to care about. Now here's where the fun gets. You want Tennessee to be in the college football playoff race, Dave? You think it's possible?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I love content. What would be better content than us for Tennessee to make the college football playoff? I'm all for it.
That is true. All right, so the next big one is they need Ole Miss to get another loss. So they need to be rooting for Texas A&M. Ole Miss isn't going to win the West. They're not going to play Ole Miss for the SEC title, but they need Ole Miss to get another loss because a one-loss Ole Miss
record right now.
I think it's 5-3.
Doesn't it feel like they'll win a game they shouldn't?
Yeah.
I'm going to call the upset A&M. I don't even know the spread, but I'll call that. Then you go out west.
Yes. Okay, so now you need some Pac-12 teams to start losing. USC has 2 losses. USC over Washington, so Washington can get a loss. USC's playing at home.
It just feels like USC will win that game in a high-scoring
95-90 game.
Okay, so we're rooting against USC. Why,
No,
why
you're
not
rooting. You're
always
rooting
root
for,
against Southern
no,
California?
You're rooting for USC.
We're
Or here's
rooting
my
for
question, Dave.
USC.
Would you
Okay.
rather, knowing that Washington might get in anyway, would you rather just USC be knocked out, period, with having 2 losses, or would you rather them knock Washington down a peg? It is possible if USC beat Washington that USC and Washington are both ahead of Tennessee at that point.
Have a lot of trouble rooting for USC because my son didn't get into that school. And the other thing that really turned me off is they still have OJ's Heisman up because, I mean, other than murdering 2 people, he is a fantastic individual. Why do you still have that in your trophy room? I thought that was super weird.
And
Anyway,
Reggie Bush had to give up his Heisman.
Yeah. Did he murder his ex-wife and a waiter? I don't think so. I mean,
Yeah.
that hasn't come out if it happened.
Right, exactly. So,
Okay.
all right, so you got to be Colorado over Oregon State. Oregon State's ahead of Tennessee in the college football playoff by 1 spot. Got to be Coach Prime fan this weekend. Game is in Boulder.
I'm gonna raise my hand. I'm big nerd boy because it's on the YouTube. I'm watching Deion Sanders press conferences like twice a week because I find the story so interesting. I can't believe that I'm watching press conferences about a team I don't cover because press conferences aren't really exciting anyway. But I watched some of his players last night too when I couldn't sleep at about 2 a.m. I almost texted you. And they seem a little ragged, a little tired, like emotionally spent. So I don't know that that's going to happen, but I see why Tennessee fans should root for it. Clemson over Notre Dame. This one I'm not even worried about because I think Notre Dame's going to end up tripping up along the ways anyway.
Yeah, and Dabo might have lit a fire in his team this weekend. I'm with you. I actually think South Carolina could beat Notre Dame or Clemson. Well, no, I'm sorry. South Carolina plays Clemson. What the heck is wrong with me? Sorry, I haven't had my mayonnaise coffee yet. I saved my so. All right, so yeah,
Mocha coming up.
Now this is another dangerous one because I said Oklahoma State over Oklahoma. Now this is a risk because if Oklahoma State wins, Oklahoma may not drop below Tennessee. Oklahoma State just may move ahead of Tennessee. At which point. So, but I think Oklahoma State will slip up somewhere else down the road, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I think most of these teams will, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And by the way, on the message board, let's make it a generality thing too. Who do you just love to see lose? And I'll be honest with you, mine's Notre Dame because they're so pretentious. And I love to see Duke lose in basketball because they're so pretentious. And the fans that root for Duke, you couldn't have got in there. You couldn't have graduated from there. Why do you root for Duke? A lot of people, it's because they look like me and they had a lot of white dudes. That's why they rooted for Duke, people of my generation. And I'm like, this school is so absolutely uppity. They wouldn't allow you to walk on campus. So I love seeing Notre Dame lose and I love seeing Duke lose.
So
where are we now?
I root against people more than I root against programs. Like, for instance, I don't root against Penn State anymore, but before the child sex scandal came out, I hated Joe Paterno. I hated him forever. I thought he was a fraud and a liar and just walked around like I and you probably do a good Joe Pa impression too, because you're great with impressions. But like, I thought he, you know,
I don't even know how he talks in retrospect.
He sat with his hands on his butt and watched everybody else do everything and pretended like he was some above the fray winner. I'm sorry, he was my least favorite figure in college football history before the scandal broke.
Didn't Tennessee played Penn State there in Outback Bowl, right?
A few times. That was one of the Foster Fumble games, the Outback Bowl, but they also played him in the Fiesta Bowl in 91. They played him Paterno twice in the 70s. But yeah, I've never despised anybody more with the burning passion than I did with Joe Paterno. And now I hate him even more because of what I find out he did. So rest in pieces, Joe. All right. So
Youch.
Yeah,
high heat. All right. Who else are we rooting? Who else should Tennessee fans be rooting?
All right. So here's a Kansas State over Texas. You want Texas to lose another game. You want them to be knocked down a peg. Now here's one. You want Alabama over LSU. And I'm going to tell you why, Dave. If you're Tennessee and you're to have any shot at the playoff, you have to win a rematch with Alabama in the SEC title. That's your only path forward. Because if LSU beats Alabama and you go beat LSU in the SEC title, well, you'll have 2 losses. Alabama will have 2 losses. Alabama will have beaten you, and the committee will give it to Alabama. You have to beat Alabama in the SEC title. You have to win a rematch with them. That's your only path.
Okay, I can roll with that. And who else? Close us out quickly if you don't mind.
All right, a few that you don't have to worry about and won't happen, but Virginia Tech over Louisville.
We're going to talk about it anyway.
Yes, Virginia Tech over Louisville. Maryland over Penn State. Not happening. And wait, the best. Y'all got to root for Schiano this weekend. Rutgers over Ohio State.
I don't. Well,
not happening.
I don't think that's going to happen. But Greg Schiano, boy, is he not the most predictably? I mean, can you imagine if he were Tennessee's head coach right now?
I mean, Tennessee would be in great shape. They would have Greg Schiano. Jimmy Haslam would still be running the program, and he is just a brilliant, brilliant man when it comes to running things. I mean, so
this is sarcasm. Sometimes it's hard to tell when Caleb doesn't do the hoity-toity voice. But when he does
I'm just saying, are you not inspired by people like Jimmy Haslam and Greg Schiano, Dave? Isn't that just a match made in heaven?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and then there's Jimmy Haslam, Greg Schiano. Like that. I mean, greatest duos in sports history.
David says, if OJ can get away with murder, why can't we see Nico? Makes perfect sense. It's completely illogical. As far as players, teams you just love rooting against, aside from just helping Tennessee, I enjoy watching Clemson lose, Ohio State as well. So there you go.
I mean, I get your point with Notre Dame. That's how Miami felt. That's how Jimmy Johnson felt in '85, which was why they ran up the score and did the fake punt. And if you remember, there's all the headlines the next day were like, Miami was classless in what they did to Notre Dame, as if Notre Dame hadn't been running up the score on everybody for 50 years before then. But, if you blow out Notre Dame, oh, how dare you, Notre Dame. But, yeah.
He did it. There was a little bit of the voice. All right, so hang tight with us because Caleb has the mayo mocha coming up. He's going to drink mayonnaise in his coffee because he lost some bet that honestly I lost track of. So here we go. Back in 2 minutes. And this cheating scandal, how I do believe now that it affected Tennessee and that South Carolina game. And I'm going to tell you why. Stay tuned. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
It may have been that Jacob Warren rejoin where right off the top, we've got Vols time saying Tennessee should use tight ends more in the passing game. I agree. I didn't know how that was going to work in the middle of the season. In the beginning of the season, I thought that Joe Milton maybe throws the ball perfectly on those dig routes and underneath things. I was wrong. Caleb's smiling. He's getting ready to say something funny, and I'm excited about it, but I'm going to finish my point. So I thought that he would be very good with the tight ends. In retrospect, he threw a very heavy ball that I thought was tough to catch, and I was like, what does that mean for the tight ends and underneath routes? That ain't great. And then since I've seen Jacob Warren be Jacob Warren, who's a very solid tight end, I've seen McCallan Castles step up and be a very good player. So, yeah, Tennessee's tight ends need to be a big part of the passing game. I don't think there's any question. All right, Caleb, what were you going to say funny? Because you're just busting at the seams.
I was just going to say, do hookers prefer sacks or tight ends?
Both. Well, I don't know. I think they prefer the cash. Ultimately, it probably speaks to me as well at this age. At this age too. The latest on the Michigan scandal, and again, I talked to you about these coaches talk, and they do. And I'm curious if Tennessee got caught in this type of scandal, and it led to Michigan's success last year, which was making the college football playoff, and I don't think it's going to lead to any success this season because surely everybody knows to change their signs when they come in from the sideline when you're playing Michigan. Let me ask you frankly on the message board and Caleb Calhoun, if you were guaranteed to make the college football playoff, a 4-team playoff, which is tough to make, and it's going to be 12 next year, would you be okay with Josh Heupel allowing something like this to happen as long as he was well insulated? Okay. So this guy that's done the cheating may have done it just all on his own. I think that, Jim Harbaugh had to have some idea. I don't think that they're sitting around in a coach's meeting and he's sitting there like throwing stuff out like, well, if they do this, they're going to do this. And I'm like, how did you know that? How did you at some point, please give me some insight as how do you know that? How did you know that? But as long as he's insulated, David Reeves was he was well insulated from Lane Kiffin, and he was the guy who sent the hostesses to North Carolina, and I don't remember their names, but they were both 4-star guys, and they ended up getting both of them. Brandon Miller was one, I believe, and one stayed, and one because he didn't spend the night in a dorm room, which at the time tied you to that university. Lane Kiffin left, and he bolted. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but it got you 2 4-star prospects out of North Carolina. So as long as you're protecting your rear, are you okay with a little bit of cheating? Would you be upset if Josh Heupel, one of the people on his staff, did this and dressed up like I keep thinking because didn't he wear glasses? Wasn't he on the sideline at one point for Central Michigan? This is pretty deep, but would you be okay with that? Keeping in mind that you had an NCAA investigation just wrap up as a backdrop. If not for that, I'd be like, go for it. It's a David Reeves type of career. So just chuck him. Lane didn't take him to Southern California. So, but it helped Tennessee.
If you don't get called, I'd be for it. But this is I don't care if you get called for secondary violations because those are never real punishments. But this seems like it could be a major one, and then I would have a problem if you got caught. Because again, I don't have much of a problem with cheating in general if you don't get caught in a lot of ways. Let me ask you this, Dave. Auburn fans in 2010, do you think Auburn fans care that they got away with paying Cam Newton a couple $100,000 to go win a national championship? Or do you think they're like, we got a national?
No. And it was Corey Miller, by the way. Do you think Southern California looks back and they're like, oh, that Reggie Bush thing, That
Well,
was
they do
so
with that because
embarrassing.
they do because they had to forfeit that one. That one is they
Oh,
got caught.
come on.
No, but see, the Auburn one is the one I'm talking about because Auburn didn't get called. We all know they did it.
Don't give me,
You just
but don't give me
fine.
that forfeit championships and forfeit games. They won that championship. I mean,
Yeah, but what happens is
I was putting together a story in which Jeremy Pruitt had a forfeit a game, and I still counted it as a win in my column. I mean, at the end of the day, we saw the two teams play. I don't believe in any of that stuff, and it.
I mean, it is kind of stupid. I will say, I didn't think this was a big deal 2 weeks ago when it came out. I might be changing my tune a little bit because, or you tell me, Dave, is this sour grapes or does this change your mind at all? The Athletic did a report. The vast majority of coaches said the scandal is severe to somewhat severe. Like, it was like they did a poll of 50 coaches, and the vast majority said it's severe to somewhat severe. Or severe to very severe, excuse me. Severe to very severe. All the Big Ten schools, rival ADs, are waiting, or they're asking the Big Ten office why they're not doing anything to punish Michigan. My question is this sour grapes that they didn't think of it, or do you think that's evidence that maybe this is real serious? That, or do you think it's something that they wouldn't have thought it was a big deal, but because an opposing school did it, they're going to think it's a big deal now?
I think it's serious. Congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier with Chattanooga Mortgage. Go to chatwith2tmortgage.com. Chat with 2T's mortgage.com. Bruce, my friends will take care of you there. I think it's serious. And it shouldn't be, but it is. The rule is in place because UConn, for instance, if it were UConn and Tennessee, UConn cannot afford to send coaches to all of these different games to scout opponents. And that's the theory behind it. Tennessee, on the other hand, could. So it's to level the playing field is what it is. Just like recruiting rules, how many times you can take official visits, how many times you can host guys. UConn doesn't have the recruiting budget that Tennessee does. So that's why it's there. I mean, that's why the rule is there. That's why when you get mega conference, stupid stuff like this goes away. Okay, because mega conference, everybody can afford it. And I don't give a darn if you go in there and you buy a whole section. And there's like and Tennessee's got an off week, and Florida's playing Georgia, and Tennessee has a whole section V15, whatever you want to call it. Or if it's next year, section V24, they're in Sanford Stadium, and they bought up the whole section, and they're scouting out both teams. But I know that they play in Jacksonville. But anyway, you know what I mean.
No, yeah. So here's where I'm kind of also coming around, where maybe it's a little more serious, where you're right. I never thought about it with other schools can't afford it. So based on that, like Ohio State to pretend they're a victim of this is stupid because they could have afforded to do the same thing. It's not like but what I will say is that another layer of this that you think about, I always think about, I said 2 weeks ago, switch your signs up, do that. I never thought about this, but I read a comment on Twitter, and Dave, you tell me if this is true. More than high school or the NFL, both of which this stuff is allowed anyway. College football, it's extremely hard for coaches to install things where they could like switch up their signs as adjustments mid-game because they are limited with practice time. They're limited with preparation because they're having to recruit so much, to the point where are college coaches more limited in X's and O's in-game preparation than any other level of football because of the time they have to spend recruiting and meeting with donors and things like that?
Probably. That's why you have 1,500 analysts if you're Alabama.
Yeah.
So
that's probably when me and you would say switch your signs up. Well, you still actually have to kind of work on that in practice, don't you? Before the game, like to say if you're going to say we're going to switch all our signs up, you can't just go in halftime and say new signs for everything for 100 however many players on a team.
No, I mean that's very true. Now that the other thing that this guy was actually at one point dressed in opposing teams' gear. Now we are excited at Off the Hook Sports to actually have a picture of this person dressed in opposing teams' gear so that he could scout the opponent. So I sent that to you, Caleb. If we could go ahead and pull that up, that would be great. This is big.
Yeah, I know who this is, but
This is big time breaking news. So go ahead and can you pull that up so we can share that on the screen? We have actually a picture of trying to be in disguise. And so this is breaking news. We're excited about
Sorry,
this.
my computer's
Says,
acting really, really, really bad. Like,
that's all right.
annoying
Travis
right
says I'm 100% with trying to key on play calls, but this is ridiculous. It is a little bit ridiculous. We do have a picture here that I want to pull up of this actually happening, which is bizarre. Oh no, that's Bobby Valentine.
And also,
what the H? That's Bobby Valentine dressed up like a fireman.
And he wasn't scouting, by the way. I think he got kicked out.
He did get kicked out of his own game, and he just showed up. He's like, "Hey, I'm back, but I've got glasses and a fake mustache on, so you'll never know who I am."
Was this before or after they gave Bobby Bonilla that contract that Bobby Bonilla is still collecting $1 million from the Mets every July 1st?
I think it was the same weekend.
Same weekend.
I don't know that, but I believe that it may have been the same weekend.
That's some brilliance by Bobby Bonilla, man. That's the finesse of finesses.
How in the world, though, do you not get expected? I mean, here's the other thing. So I was joking around a little bit. Tennessee, do this, go for it. But they do have the backdrop of the NCAA investigation that just happened. And this is stupid. I mean, this is absolutely stupid. I mean, how are you not going to eventually get caught? Travis, who needs to say Bobby Bonilla again? Did somebody say it wrong?
Say Bonilla? Bobby Bonilla? Did I say Bonilla instead of Bonilla? Whatever.
Bonilla.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Male Ava.
Male Ava. Male Ava.
To Tunga Viola. We help you pronounce each and every day. Weekdays at 10. And be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done to this point. It's been a fun Friday show. We're going to roll with, by the way, Fred, a little bit under the weather today. Speaking from a man who could do more than roll out of the bed and do the show because I had COVID a couple weeks ago. I certainly feel for him. So get better soon, Fred. We want to see that. But yeah, this scandal is getting bigger and bigger, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. And I don't believe Jim Harbaugh has insulated himself well enough because I don't think he cares. Caleb, I don't believe that he truly cares if he gets in trouble or not because he wants to go to the NFL. All right. November success has been something that has been a Tennessee tradition, like the abused walking horse, the checkerboard end zones, the power tee, running through the power tee. November success has been something that has been monstrous for Tennessee. And I think it will continue to be the case given who the Vols play. So they'll play UConn, then they'll play Missouri, and then they'll play Vanderbilt. But there's that Georgia game, which is going to be really tough to get around. So I don't know that November success continues, but if you look back over the years, I'm curious your thoughts on November success, because we can call it success because you beat Kentucky and Vanderbilt back in the day, but those are horrible teams. And Tennessee, it seemed like it was a 50-50 of showing up and not being fantastic in those games and really struggling in those games. So, tell me, November success, is that a Tennessee tradition or is that just happenstance with Vanderbilt and Kentucky being awful?
It's happenstance. It is absolutely. I would actually argue that given the fact that they played Vanderbilt, Kentucky, if you look at Tennessee's historical November record, I think they've underachieved in November, honestly. I mean, so there was a period in the 90s. I think you can go back to, I would say, there was a period from like 1991. I think it started in 1991, and it went all the way to 1998. Tennessee lost one game in November, but that one game was to Memphis, which they never should have lost in 96. And so I look back and I say, wow, you usually play your, let's be honest, Dave. you usually historically played you didn't just play Vanderbilt and Kentucky in November. You played your homecoming game in November.
Okay.
You had these games.
True. Here's another factor going back into the day. And let's just forget about bullet head, bad haircut, and fancy haircut. Okay. Let's take those out
Fancy
of the equation.
Pants. He had
fancy pants.
Fancy. And also, and then the coach before him liked to remove his pants for. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Okay. Nothing questions a man's toughness like saying, "Hey, fancy pants." But let's remember this. Tennessee was deeper, okay? So other teams like Vanderbilt and Kentucky would suffer an injury, and it would have a major impact on their program because there was a drop-off to the second team guy. How close is Tennessee to that? Or are they? Because their second team, there were a lot of years that they could have not won an SEC championship, but they could have certainly gone 6-6. Or 6-5 or 5-6, been respectable. How close is Tennessee to that before we get into recruiting visitors for the weekend?
How close is Tennessee to where they can lose players and still dominate Vanderbilt and Kentucky?
Yeah, because I think they're
already there with Vanderbilt.
Okay, they've lost Kamal Haddon. They've lost Keenan Peely, who I think would have made Tennessee considerably better in the front seven, even though they're pretty good. So
they're already at the point where these injuries can help them beat the lesser teams in the SEC. They're not at the point where they can withstand injuries.
Injuries not help them. Okay, restate that. I think you misspoke.
They're already at the point where they can withstand injuries when facing lesser SEC competition. For the most part. Now, Florida, they're not fully there because, again, Cooper Mays, Florida, that I guess as I say that out loud, that's not true, but you're right. They lost Kamal Haddon and Keenan Peely and still beat Kentucky last week on the road. So I think they're already there. Where they're not is that, I do question if they can withstand the loss to Kamal Haddon when they're playing Georgia in 2 weeks. And that's kind of the big question right now. Now, last year, Tennessee lost Cedric Tillman and went off to a 7-0, 8-0 start. But that's because nobody knew how good Jalen Hyatt was.
Do you mean to go ahead and tell you what's going to happen against Georgia? I mean,
Sure.
I'll go ahead and tell you. It's the exact same game plan that they ran against Kentucky. So you're going to be frustrated, Tennessee fans, by Carson Beck completing a high percentage and gobbling up a bunch of yards, but they're not going to let the running game beat them. And what they did against Kentucky is frustrating, and I could sense it in Tim Banks' press conference, Tennessee's defensive coordinator this week. He didn't like that style at all. He doesn't like running a bunch of zone, but here's the difference. I don't want to go too deep football IQ here because I know people can get bored and glassy-eyed. But when you're playing zone, you're facing the line of scrimmage. So you're able to be a part of run support, even if that's not what you're directed to do in that particular play, because you're like, they're running the ball, I'm going, as long as you're disciplined. When you're playing man, your back's flipped. So I think Kentucky was clearly about getting ready to play Georgia because they're going to want to stop the run. And if Carson Beck can go out and beat them, then they're the better team and still the better program at this point. But that's what you're going to see. You didn't even see many zone blitzes. You just saw straight up zone, Caleb, which is, I mean, I watched Tim Banks' press conference twice, and it was almost like, okay. It was almost like you go and you get a really good, you get good results and good test results from your colonoscopy. You didn't enjoy the colonoscopy, but you won because they didn't find any polyps or cancer.
Yes.
You're too young to know what a colonoscopy is.
No, I know what it is, but
okay.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Thoughts on colonoscopy comparisons on the message board. Is that apt? That's what Tim Banks went through against Kentucky, and it may pay off against Georgia.
So
congratulations on the test results, by the way, Tim Banks.
This is basically what Monty Kiffin's whole Tampa 2 defense was about, right?
A lot, yeah.
That was the whole point of the defense was play zone and trust your defensive line to get the pressure on its own. You don't need your linebackers to do it. And that's why he was able to cheat Eric Berry up at linebacker. He wanted him playing more of that level. So okay, so kind of stepping it back a little bit, where are you with this, Dave? Do you think that, remember Johnny Majors used to say, I always told my players they remember what you do in November? You think Johnny Majors was just full of BS and it had everything to do with who Tennessee was playing? You think he was actually serious? Like, oh no, we step our game up in November.
I thought they stepped their game up.
No,
I think
they always struggled with Vanderbilt.
No. I think Tennessee under Fulmer, I think they stepped their game up largely depending on what Florida did. And Travis asking, did Dave say enjoys a good colonoscopy? Well, no, but it's better than a bad one.
So what I'm saying is,
I mean, I'm 50 next year. I'm not going to lie to you. That's been scheduled for December.
Well, Dave, you're back to real points because I'm sorry, I get like, I know I'm gonna have to do it, but just the thought, never mind.
You're supposed to do it at 45, but you're supposed to do it at 45 nowadays. Instead of 50, by the way, they changed that. And but Caleb, if you want to get ahead of the game and just experience something new, you can go ahead and do yours now in your mid-30s.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so how do I go back from that?
It reminds me of that scene from Fletch. Who remembers this? Moon River.
Okay, all right.
Do you remember that?
No, I have never seen Fletch.
Okay.
All I'm trying to say is that Dave,
Caleb's so thrown off.
You are wrong on the whole that it depended on what. You're wrong on the whole that it depended on what Florida did. I distinctly remember when Tennessee realized they could win the East Peyton Mannings last year, they played horrible in November. They barely beat Vanderbilt again that year. And they barely beat South Carolina. Peyton Manning lost the Heisman because of how bad he played in November that year.
Yep.
And
also another thing to remember is that Philip Fulmer, and this was a smart move. This is not a criticism. He didn't do nearly as much coaching in Vanderbilt, Kentucky week. He was recruiting. And there were times where he would leave the practice field and go make phone calls to recruits. I mean, which was smart. I mean, because as long as you eat by and beat them, you don't want to eat by. Don't get me wrong. But
they did a lot of times with Vanderbilt. They never really did with Kentucky. I feel like they always blew out Kentucky, but that's because Kentucky, and you know this with Hal Mummy, they didn't care about defense. So Fulmer knew that they were going to put like 45 to 50 points against Kentucky, and that air raid offense, a Tennessee defense was going to shut that down no matter what. So
everybody agree? Does everyone agree that Caleb has to see Fletch and the proctology scene? I mean,
can I get my mayonnaise coffee out of the way? You've been like making me build up for this all week, and like, can I just be done with it? Because I've been dreading it for too long.
No, we're gonna drag this out because Caleb has to drink mayonnaise. Hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see Caleb drink mayonnaise. And he had some bet that Peyton Manning says
like that is total bullshit.
That's right. So Caleb's going to be drinking some mayonnaise a little bit later. Hey, I had somebody call me and they said, tell me about that city heating and air conditioning in Knoxville. And I said, well, I'll do so. Because they got this knocking noise in their HVAC unit. I said, here's what they'll do. They'll come out, they will look at your unit, and they'll say that you need this. You don't necessarily need a new unit. Now you may, but the installation and the customer service is going to be top notch. But there are a lot of fly-by-night HVAC people that'll just say you need a new unit no matter what. You don't necessarily need a new unit no matter what. So you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cityheatandair.com to learn more. They bring you the Vol Report with Cooper Mays. We always love visiting with him. So there you go. The Mayo coffee, the Mayo mocha coming up. Homework tonight for Caleb Calhoun is to watch Fletch. And by the way, here's just I like to think of myself as a decent marketing guy. Travis says, you've got a bad proctologist when he says, when he walks by the nurse and she says, who was that guy? No. So you got a random, here's a marketing idea. How about making more proctologist female?
Oh my gosh.
It's
oh my
true.
gosh.
I would be more. Wouldn't everybody be more comfortable? Wouldn't every man be more comfortable? I mean, it's
Yes, but
uncomfortable to get.
This is like, okay, but women are not comfortable with male gynecologists a lot of times.
I understand, but I'm just saying that it's out there, and I'm just throwing it out
Well,
there.
I mean, we find out that this hooker does love the tight ends. He likes the use
Oh
of the
my
tight.
good grief! You're not going to believe who's going to be in town for Tennessee's game against UConn. It's not as big as this big Georgia weekend that's coming up. It's going to be pretty significant, but we're going to go over recruiting visitors, and it's brought to you in part by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go to Hemp House Chat with 2 T's, Hemp House Chat with 2 T's.com. Use the promo code HOOKED. That's the promo code HOOKED, and you will get 10% off of your order, and they are absolutely awesome. So we appreciate them. And oh my gosh. Oh, that's right. We're talking men's health, and Travis is paging Dr. Penix. Dr. Penix. Oh, Penix.
It's
That's the
Michael
quarterback at Washington.
Penix, but you know,
Penix.
it's
Penix. Okay. It's getting weird on the on the message board. I'm not even going to. I love it that you guys are doing it, but I'm not going to in any way facilitate it or share some of these comments on the screen. But I'll tell you what. How about 2 minutes, and I'll tell you who's going to be in town for the Vols, as they're recruiting. They always are. He's Caleb Calhoun and Dave Hooker.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
These mountains hold and defend a spirit far better than moonshine. A drink that holds flavor, that becomes necessity. A hard cider made and relished by folk who are as hearty as they are legend. A refreshment that can only be found in one place. With a taste that makes you say, give me 3 bottles of the good stuff. Tennessee Cider Company, where necessity can be found.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Welcome back. Recruiting is the talk. If you have any recruiting questions, go ahead and throw them out there, and I would be absolutely very happy to field some recruiting questions. Caleb Giroux takes care of most of that for us on Off the Hook Sports, but I keep my finger on the pulse. I know a couple of old phone numbers over there at the football program. Somebody say my nephew is there. That would be basically impossible because I am an only child. I don't have, and my wife's an only child. I don't have any nieces or nephews, never will. How sad is that? Travis saying, when are you going to do another book signing? It's looking like the day before the Georgia game, and it is. You're still making me laugh on all the Fletch stuff. It is. It's looking like the day before the Georgia game at the Alumni Hall in Turkey Creek, and we hope to be joined by a very special former Vol that I don't want to share yet because I want to visit with him and make sure the time works for him. But let's just say it rhymes with really Catliff. So
I think I know who that guy is.
Yeah. So if you want to go and order the book, you can do so. It's right down below. And you can order some Fred White copies. You can order the paperback or you can order the hardback. So you've got options, whether or not you just want to read to have around and you want to read about the good stories, or if you want to keepsake, you might want a Fred White autographed option. And we're continuing the Give 'em Six campaign that will give $6 for every book to the Peyton Walker Foundation, which provides the AEDs. Brew McCoy, this was one of his this was his charity of choice. So he's out for the season. So that was just going to do for like a week. But we're going to continue it on for another week. So and give me an idea, if I mean, I'm not just trying to push a book down your throat, but it is to the point where I will have to order some for the holidays. So if you're thinking about holiday presents, you're always welcome to email me if you want 3 or 4 or 5 of them because you like them. Maybe you've read them. I can certainly work with you on the price on that, and it'd save you some shipping as well. So I'll always put my email here. I'm about as transparent as they come. So David, Off the Hook Sports, if you're thinking about them for Christmas, it would be a good time for me because we're in November and I've got to order these things. And last time it took a lot longer than we thought to get them. So I want to get to recruiting visitors, as I think Georgia is going to be the big weekend, but I do not want to overlook this weekend because it is very significant. This report on recruiting brought to you by our friends today at Herald Group Security Solutions. Leadership experience specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques, making your children safer, one school at a time. We're in private schools right now, but we want to be in public schools, also workplaces. Do me a favor. Just go to the school administrator or whoever handles your workplace security, because there's a chance he just got some security guard off the street. These guys are highly trained. And say, reach out to Herald Group Security Solutions, heraldgrp.com. It's right down below. We start with a running back, as Tennessee is on the verge of becoming running back U with the group they have. Justin Baker. What can you tell me about Justin Baker, the Vols' most recent commitment? He'll be in town. He's a 3-star prospect, but he's also out of Buford, Georgia at high school. So I've said this before. To take a 3-star from Georgia is way different than taking a 3-star from Wyoming, because you have seen how he's competed, and it could potentially give you a connection into that state. Now, used to be you wouldn't say, no, I would never waste a 4 or 5-year scholarship for just a potential pipeline connection. But nowadays with the transfer portal, if Justin can't play just like any other guy at any other school, they're going to run him. So, I mean, it's no big deal like it used to be. But let's say he's every bit as good as Jalen Wright. What do you think about Justin Baker, the touchdown maker? Good call, Travis.
No, I think Baker could be, again, his ratings could rise because he's actually a commitment for 2025. And so he could rise. It keeps your pipeline into Georgia. It is more about the pipeline. I'm actually going to break with you, Dave, because I think sometimes nowadays, I think a 3-star in Wyoming is better than a 3-star out of Georgia. And the reason I say that is because, hear me out. Listen, recruiting rankings take into account now, which they didn't 10 years ago. They take into account just the level of talent coming from a state, and they use that against you. Cedric Tillman was a 2-star because he came out of Nevada. If he came out of Georgia, he would have easily been a 4-star. No questions asked. He was a 2-star because he came out of Vegas. And so I think I think if you're a 3-star the reason they take a couple of stars off because they don't know how good you are against better competition, which you do know how good someone with Georgia is against good competition. I mean, I feel like Georgia is a state where you miss on way fewer recruits than a Wyoming, if that makes sense.
That's crazy.
What do you think about that?
I mean, okay.
Yeah. I mean, Smoky Mountain Red set me up for it, and I think he's right.
I wanted Peyton. I thought she could give me I thought she could give me Peyton Manning on that.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a mayo coffee. It's not supposed to be a mayo and tequila coffee. What the? I mean, good.
Look, boy, it's funny you say that. I wanted the Peyton Manning one because remember this, Dave. Remember when Peyton Manning? You know this with recruiting with Peyton. Well, you didn't cover recruiting with Peyton, but there were questions about Peyton because of his level of competition playing at Newman, right? Because there was a private school and they only played at the private schools during that time.
Well, and you know what Peyton said about that?
They're like, that is total bullshit.
I mean, he came out of Louisiana, but he didn't actually play the public schools in Louisiana where the talent is.
Who's still continually excited about that drop? Because I called Caleb like at 10 o'clock at night one night, and I was like, you're not going to believe what I found. And he's like, whoopity-doo, what is that? But now
they're like, that is total bullshit.
We could hear that like for 5 years, and it would never get old. Mead Drinker says Gerald Riggs was a 5-star in the Chattanooga area. If he had stayed in Georgia, he would have been a 3-star. I don't remember him being a 5. I thought he was a 4, but
that was also 21 years ago, not 10. Chris, so okay, y'all got to learn to count. All right, Chris Donald was also a 5-star. Remember that one, Dave?
Well, I tell you what, I thought Chris Donald was going to be good, and I was wrong. All right, to this upcoming weekend, Dwayne Morris, a 2025 athlete, in-state prospect from Chattanooga, who the message board just dumped all over. There's some good prospects out of Chattanooga. Boo!
Chattanooga has better players than Nashville. Okay, let's keep going.
I think there's there's a lot of truth to that. Probably not in terms of numbers, but at the top end,
it's like
the top 5. That might be a column for Caleb Giroux. All right, so Dwayne Morris, he is number 12 prospect from Tennessee and attends Oakland High School. He holds offers from Colorado, Kentucky, and Texas A&M notably. Did I tell you when I was on a flight to see my son in Massachusetts that there was a kid decked out in Colorado gear, and he had just visited Colorado, and he was on the same flight with me back from Atlanta. And I said, I should probably go up there and interview him. And my wife, who is exhausted from our trip to UMass, says, if you do a recruiting interview on the tarmac, then I am absolutely leaving you. And she meant it. And I could see it in her eyes. 2025 edge rusher Tyrone Burris. So I'm not even sure if it was Boo, but it might have been the Dylan cat that we just talked about. Okay, so Burris, a 3-star. We're talking about a lot of 3-stars. And this kid's out of Indiana. So why don't you go ahead and use your previous logic to tell me how he's the king of Indiana?
I mean, he is the king of Indiana. And also 3 stars, 3 stars for 2025. They upped the recruiting a year later. So you missed one, by the way, Dave. You missed a 4-star for 2025. Dylan Alfred, who comes out of Alabama. Saraland, Alabama. For those who don't know, Velus Jones Jr. came out of Saraland, Alabama. So
how can I miss Alfred?
There's... so Dylan Alfred is
Batman voice. You like that?
I got it.
Alfred, I need you. We could do a whole bit. What would Batman say?
How good of a football player would Batman be is the question.
Batman would say, seems like a lot of 3 stars. 2025 linebacker Justin Rowe out of Asheville, North Carolina, another football hotbed. Nothing like Asheville. Craft beer, hippies, and maybe occasionally a football game breaks out.
And also the hometown of one of the greatest legendary coaches of all time in Buzz Peterson.
2025 offensive lineman Cortez Smith. There's a
4-star. And by the way, if you're a 4-star this early out, that's a really good sign because they reset their rankings before the signing day, after signing day of next year. Coming out of Parkview in Georgia. Tennessee's going to need some help on the interior line. And Dave, you have talked a lot about the help needed on the line. So this is a good one.
Yep. Agree. A recruiting update brought to you in part by our friend Don Self, State Farm agent. Customer service still matters. State Farm agent Don Self and his team take customer service seriously for well over 40 years. They have built their business and reputation on taking care of their customers, College, Dale, and Ottawa, as well as the greater Chattanooga area. Don and his team pride themselves on making sure you and your family won't have any surprises. I know everybody's trying to save a little money and cut rates, but man, customer service still matters. So whether your need is for insurance for your home or family or your small business, give Don and his team a call. Within just a few minutes, you will find out what makes Don Self State Farm different from others. So the link is right below. And also just Google Don Self. And I had a great visit with him. You'll be very glad you did if you're anywhere in the Chattanooga area. So the rest of the guys that are coming in Batman voice, Caleb Beasley. These are commitments expected to be in town. Peyton Lewis, Carson, Never Gentle, and Edwin Spillman will take in the UConn game. Where is Boo Radley? I'm sorry. What was his name again? Where is he?
Boo Carter?
Weekend? Yeah, Boo Carter.
I don't know if he's taking a visit this weekend. I could be wrong.
Check on that. Why do I feel like he's never going to end up at Tennessee for some reason?
I don't know.
Do you kind of feel that same way?
Yeah.
Who's more likely to end up at Tennessee, Boo Carter or Boo Radley? Who gets the Boo Radley reference?
I hope anybody who graduated high school or middle school gets the Boo Radley reference. But yeah.
Yes. Did anybody, by the way, see on the Twitter the other day where somebody argued with our video and admitted that they didn't watch it, that they just read the headline. And then I said, well, I guess you wouldn't be interested in my books, but I will tell you it has pictures in it, if that helps. and he asked if they were color pictures. I think I lost a cell right there.
All right, so I think before we do our last segment, I should go.
Okay,
ahead
wait.
and
Where's Boo Radley Carter going?
He's not going anywhere this weekend. I can't find him on a visit.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Also, it's yeah. So, but I think we should pour the mayonnaise in the coffee before we do our last segment. No, we should go before we do our last segment because then I can drink it while we're talking about the segment. I'm not going to chug coffee.
It's going to be disgusting.
Yeah,
it's going to be disgusting.
Ready?
Yeah, I don't know where Boo Carter's going. But there we go. Boo has been to multiple high schools. That's a good point. Mead drinker. He has. That used to be a major red flag in recruiting. Now it's not as big of a red flag. It's more like a yellow card compared to a red card in soccer. And yeah, I'm going to call it soccer. I'm not calling it
Yellow
football.
Card was an amazing rock band.
Yeah, I don't care how much you pay me. I'm not calling it football. We got football here. Soccer. Yeah, I think it's a yellow card now where you're a little concerned if a guy's been to multiple high schools. But I don't think it's a red card. It used to be, I was back in the day, I was like, don't even take that dude.
It's like the old school, it's running into the kicker. It's not roughing the kicker.
What?
It's running into the kicker, but not roughing the kicker.
Okay. What happens when Boo Radley and Boo Carter in the same room? You got yourself a boo-boo. That was from Travis. Guys. That was from Travis. Don't encourage me. That is terrible of you to do. So, all right. So we have the coffee. We know now that he won. Caleb Calhoun made some crazy Pac-12 bet that he lost, and I told him he was.
And then Will Levis, who started the Mayonnaise and Coffee, threw 4 touchdowns the next day, who I did not believe in.
Okay.
I'm a Titans fan.
So I told him that he was crazy for making that pick, and I'm not a good gambler. So I for me to beat Caleb in any gambling situation is a big win. That would be like Caleb beating me in a bench press contest. I don't know what you really bench. Might be more than
bench for anything. So, and by the way,
I'm at about 265 right now.
And this is the millennial in me. Yes, I do French press coffee. I don't do that like coffee maker, like, that you just that just brews the coffee. No, I do it right, bro. Okay. All you
What is
boomers out
French
there.
press coffee? Smoky Mountain Red said that as well.
It's this. You grind you put the coffee grinding and mix it with hot water, and then you let it sit for 5 minutes. I've let it sit for like 30, so it's going to be really strong. Okay.
Okay. So you're gonna pour that in a cup. Do we see the mayonnaise? Is the mayonnaise Duke's? Is the mayonnaise? By the way, anybody like Miracle? Does anybody like Miracle Whip? Who wants sweet mayonnaise? I don't want sweet mayonnaise. So the mayonnaise is not in it yet, right? The mayonnaise is going in it.
I'm leaving some room for it. Okay. Everybody can see it, and here comes the mayonnaise. It is actually
a heaping tablespoon. Caleb,
Hellman's
is a great choice. I like Duke's because it's from the South, and I like supporting people from the South. But Miracle Whip is horrible.
Let me taste this to see how good of a job I did first on the coffee before I ruin it with mayonnaise. But
okay. So, by the way, Smoky Mountain Red
this
says
is good.
JFG,
I make good coffee, guys.
Yeah, Smoky Mountain Red says JFG forever and always. Smoky Mountain Red, let me ask you. Did you ever come out of the underground in Knoxville, which was like the late night party place? It didn't open till 3 a.m. And you would come out of there at 5 a.m. and you would smell the JFG grinders brewing downtown in the old city. Has anybody experienced that? Because that's when God's telling you need to go home. It's 5 a.m. and you need to get your butt in bed.
Oh, this smells so disgusting. All right, guys, I'm showing you right here. I'm turning the camera down because I'm proving that I'm putting the mayonnaise in the coffee. Are we ready?
This will be way better for our video viewers than it will be for the audio people. Here we go.
Okay, so how many do I have to put in, Dave? How many spoonfuls?
Oh, I'm good with one heaping tablespoon like you did. But what do you think, message board? Should he put a second? And by
the way, guys, I hate mayonnaise as it is. Like, I actually am disgusted by mayonnaise.
Southside Brewer asks why. Okay, so tell him again why.
So we were doing all right, so before I drink this, we were doing a bet last week that Oregon, Utah, I was sure the game would hit the over. And I was so sure. Dave's like, would you put something on it? And he's like, would you drink coffee with mayonnaise? And I just said, sure, whatever. And not only did the game not hit the over, but this was based on a Will Levis mayonnaise and coffee move last year at SEC Media Days.
Yes, which you had not heard about, but it was a big thing.
And then Will Levis went and threw for 4 touchdowns against to lead the Titans to a win. When I'm a Titans fan, I totally bet against Will Levis. I still don't believe in him. So I realized I had to follow through with this bet.
Okay, so I
want
for those on our audio platforms.
Milk. Oh my god! Oh.
For those on our audio platforms, you have to see how genuinely disgusted. Like the upper lip is cringing even as he's thinking about it. So go to YouTube. Be sure and hit that like and subscribe button. Because we're gonna. I think this might be a new thing where we continually make Caleb do disgusting things because he's still a young man. I've done stupid things.
You know what? I could go on Jackass after this one.
You could. Yeah.
Oh,
you could.
Lord.
All right.
All right, guys, here we go.
You have to drink the whole cup. Okay. Here we go. How is it? Oh, we got a gag reflex. Oh, he's drinking more. He goes back for the second. But we definitely had a gag reflex that was troubling. Hit the like and subscribe button if you think that Caleb should have to drink the whole jar. And little on the side there.
I don't think it's good for the show if I yak.
Probably not, but I can always pull your camera down, so I'm willing to risk it. Will we see Caleb puke on camera? Possibly. Travis nails it.
Oh wait, let's have it.
Including the space in 6 characters. Travis nails it. My God.
All right, so we have one last segment to do, and let's do the segment while I'm drinking the coffee because I have to try to. You ever watch Hot Ones, Dave? Where like this guy who eats really spicy wings. He interviews a celebrity and have to eat wings from like a level of mild to extremely spicy.
But I feel like you're changing the subject. Just drink your coffee.
All right, we'll start the next segment.
Okay. All right. What is the next segment? What are we doing now?
Whose regular season winning streak is more impressive? Because Georgia just broke Tennessee's SEC record. So Georgia's regular season winning streak started in 2020 and going through 2023 has now broken Tennessee's regular season SEC record from 1937 to 1940. So the question is, which one was more impressive?
How did it break the record? Just most wins in a row?
Most consecutive wins in a regular season wins in a row.
Well, I mean, this one's more impressive by Georgia because the playing field's more level. I think Tennessee was ahead of the game back then, but you could speak to that better than I do. You're the historian who loves mayonnaise in his coffee. Sips it away. Look at it.
So you're right.
Chugging.
Also, Tennessee in that regular season winning streak run from 37 to 40 beat one team that finished ranked, and it was Alabama in 1938.
Look at him bringing the stats during it. I love it.
The 1939 team, Dave, you may know this, and I'm going to keep bringing the stats real quick, but it's it's the 1939 team is the last team to go undefeated, untied, and unscored on in the regular season. Tennessee shut out every single opponent that year that they beat. They lost. That does it.
I was like, go ahead.
They lost the Rose Bowl, but that's because George Cafago was banged up and couldn't fully go. They lost the Rose Bowl to USC that year, but had Cafago been healthy, they would have won it all. They weren't national champs that year, though, and they finished second to TCU in 1938 of all teams. But guys, sorry, that was the I guess it was the Doak Walker years at TCU, so TCU was better.
Yes, Caleb, by the way, is drinking his coffee, but they don't drink mayo in their coffee at Sports Treasures. They just provide you with over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. Go to Facebook, Sports Treasures TN, Sports Treasures TN. I love seeing what they've got out there. And Caleb certainly could use a Tennessee cider. Use the promo code HAT. The promo code
sweet or
HAT.
I could use toothpaste.
Okay. You get the original hard cider of the Smoky Mountains when you go to tncidercompany.com. The original. Use the promo code HAT to receive some free swag with your cider order. And there may or may not be a Dave Hooker or an Off the Hook cider coming up. How cool would that be?
It'd be amazing.
An Off the Hook cider.
So Dave,
yes.
The spread is 35.5 tomorrow. Does Tennessee cover or not?
Well, let me answer it with this. It doesn't sound as good as Vols by 50, but I got Vols by 60. I'm taking 68 to 18 in an odd score. How about that?
68 to 8. I'm taking 49 to 14. They win by 35. They don't cover the 35.5 point spread. Tennessee has won one game by more than 35 this year. It was against Virginia. They couldn't even beat Austin Peay by 35 or UTSA.
Isn't Virginia a little bit better recently? Or are they still just...
Yeah, it's not the same Virginia team that Tennessee beat.
Yeah.
Tony Elliott is turning it around. I'm a believer in Tony Elliott. I know John Adams is not, but I think he's a good coach.
I think that you may be... I'm trying to think of a nice word to say gullible. You believe in a lot of people.
I also don't believe in a lot of people.
Okay. How about this? What's the next bet? How many games does LSU have left? Because everybody knows that you love Brian Kelly.
Well, I already picked Alabama to cover this weekend against LSU. I've lost faith in LSU.
Okay. So what do we want to bet on that? Anybody, any suggestions?
Well, how about this? Well, let's bet the spread. We're debating the Tennessee UConn spread. Let's bet on that. Let's put some on it, Dave. I got them covered. You got them covering. I say they won't cover.
Okay. So what do you have? What do we have to do? Loser has to buy 5 Celebrate 98 books. I already bought them, so it would just be on you.
All right, let's see what we're talking about here. All right, you guys on the message board, give us a good bet that that the loser has to do for next Friday.
Okay, I like this one, actually. Loser has to eat a Big Orange Crunch to start the show.
That's a benefit to the loser.
Yeah, and do you have Friday afternoon? Well, you have to do you have to edit all of our content and redistribute. I don't know after a Big Orange Crunch if you're going to be able to do that.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want. I mean, these things are good stuff. So, I don't know that we want that. Give us something else. By the way, if you want the Big Orange Crunch, use the promo code Hooked, and you can get 10% off that as well. And it's at hemphousechat with 2Ts.com, hemphousechat with 2Ts.com, and you can get 10% off of anything with the promo code Hooked. So we'll think of something. We'll have something cruising next week. Maybe we'll interact on the
Travis, I do that anyway. What are you talking? Like, do you see Travis's post? He acts like I don't do that to Fred to his face anyway.
Loser has to. Yeah, we don't want to. We don't.
I already do that to Fred. How many times do I mention Tennessee's failures against Florida and Nebraska when I'm talking to him?
So what's your I don't know that it has to be a food thing, but yeah, we can definitely come up with something. We can definitely come up with something.
Okay.
You look like you're getting used to the mayonnaise coffee.
Well, now it's just like the mayonnaise curdles at the bottom, and it looks like it's curdling, and I'm like, oh, I can't have any more, guys. I'm sorry. It's
your guy. It's your guy, Will Levis. You absolutely love him. All right, fantastic. Yes. What?
I can't stand him. By the way, I am the most right person in history with Titans quarterbacks. I was against Locker. I was against Mariota. I was against Kerry Collins. I was against. I'm going to be against Will Levis. The only guy I was for was Vince Young, and we should have stuck with him.
Yeah, I like Mariota, but I just didn't think that.
Mariota was too soft to play with a hand in his face.
Yeah, I think it's so happenstance if you get the right coaching staff, if you get the right franchise. That's why I hope things work out for Hendon Hooker. And, I had some fun with the Lions in the offseason, but I hope that they've got their stuff together, and it looks like they do. Rick Terry Jewelry Design, they want to be your jeweler, looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? That's rickterryjewelry.com, rickterryjewelry.com. Okay, so there we go. In honor of Rick Terry, so if Tennessee covers the spread, then Caleb has to wear a tiara throughout the program next week.
Oh, that's a good one. I can do that.
Okay.
What'll Dave do if Tennessee doesn't cover the spread? Ooh, Dave. Do you have a Steelers jersey since you're a Cowboy fan?
No, I don't.
Do you have a Red Sox jersey?
I'll tell you what.
Lakers jersey?
Here's what I'll do. If Tennessee does not cover the spread, then I will just continue to throw high heat weekly at 10 a.m. with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation